Just setting something up quickly. Right. Hello, happy Wednesday, everyone. Um, I hope you are having a nice day. Yeah, let me just check everything is adequately up and running. Looks like it. Yes, good. Good. Right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Um, so today I'm going to be doing more of the same from last stream. Let me just calibrate my blood glucose monitoring thing quickly. Apologies. Um, so I'm going to have a look at the news, get myself a bit up to date, and then continue with my CK3 game, which is Crusader Kings, which is going rather well. Um, I am now Pope, so that's nice. Pope of a new religion, so we'll see my new religion soon. Um, so stick around for that if you're here for gaming content, but if you're here for incisive political commentary, um, then go to another stream. If you're here for mediocre political commentary, then stay here. Bloody. Sometimes the stabber doesn't adequately stab and get enough blood out, so I've got to stab again. Little stabby device that exists to stab. Technically a lancing device, but I call it my little stabber. Right, there we go. Blood glucose is adequate. In fact, pretty good. So, yes. I Trump got in the Bob Woodward has a new book out, it seems. I read Fear, which was rather good. Um, Bob Woodward, of course, of Woodward and Bernstein fame, the two journalists at the Washington Post at the time as well, who broke the Watergate scandal and um, took down President Nixon. And Woodward, in particular, has been doing a rather good job of staying on top of I was about to say the next most corrupt president, but I think it's pretty clear at this point that Trump is more corrupt than Nixon. Uh, like Nixon never did the large scale like profiteering stuff. You know, he was in it just for political power, rather than so much like personal economic gain as well. Um, but anyway, Woodward's a good journalist, good writer, and see President Trump's head popped up during this top secret intelligence briefing in the Oval Office on January 28th when the discussion turned to the coronavirus outbreak in China. This would be the biggest national security threat. Oh, that wasn't. That's not Trump saying it. This would be the biggest national security threat that you face in your presidency, National Security Advisor Robert C. O'Brien told Trump, according to a new book by Washington Post associate editor Bob Woodward. It's going to be the roughest thing that you face. I mean, prescient. And it's worth noting for context that Obama, the Obama administration, set up the National Security Council. I forget what the name of it is called, but it was a committee, like an organizing group within the NSC for pandemic preparedness. Um, Essentially bringing a bunch of coordinating and guidance like mechanisms together under the National Security Council for the purpose of preparing for exactly the kind of major health problem that the US is facing at the moment. So, and Trump had intelligence briefings, at least in the written intelligence packet he gets, but rarely reads, um, indicating that coronavirus was a potential threat from the start of January. So by this point, um, in Trump's position, he was already aware of the virus in general, although it wasn't clear quite how bad it was going to be. Um, that said, it was fairly predictable that it was going to be a major, like serious global pandemic from early in January. Um, and he had it was a year or so on from last year, or was it 2018? Can't remember what year it was, but when the White House split apart the NSC group for pandemic preparedness, which obviously isn't ideal at the best of times, but in retrospect was a particularly stupid move. It's something I worried about at the time because uh, one of the major assets of the United States, one of their major capabilities, is their ability to uh, intervene throughout the world, both militarily and with diplomatic support and logistics support, and they, at least historically in recent history, have been able to like take the role in responding to major global, take the lead in responding to major global disasters, which has had its problems, undoubtedly. The post World War II order hasn't been like completely perfect by any means, but with Trump's presidency just abdicating that position, there wasn't really anybody in place to exercise that kind of leadership, which is in no small part why China was able to bully the WHO um, into covering up aspects of the pandemic early on. So I guess my point is that all of this was very predictable and very foreseeable, and it pisses me off seeing commentators talking about how unforeseen and how amazing the coronavirus pandemic is, how unprecedented. It's really not. It's a moderately bad pandemic disease, not even comparable in danger to the 1918 influenza pandemic, let alone something of like epochal impact like the Black Death in medieval Europe. It was entirely predictable. It's the sort of thing that occurs every few decades. Has been particularly bad due to global uh, travel. It spread especially fast, because of globalized travel networks. But we really, really should have had some plans in place or we did have some plans in place. We really should have had better plans and followed them better. Actually followed them, paid any attention to them whatsoever. In the case of the Trump White House. Um, let's see. 10 days later, Trump called Woodward and revealed that he thought the situation was far more dire than what he'd been saying publicly. This is baffling. Uh, Trump's like blend of just outright lying to the press and calling them all kinds of epithets, but also hungering so much for publicity, leads him to say some really stupid things, like stupid from his own perspective, irrational. Um, Also stupid from the perspective of like managing a large disaster. At the time, Trump was telling the nation the virus was no worse than seasonal flu, predicting that it would soon disappear and insisting that the US government had it totally under control. Remember back then? It would be several weeks before he would publicly announce that the virus was no ordinary throat flu and that it could be transmitted through the air. Trump admitted to Woodward on March 19th he deliberately minimized the danger. I wanted to always play it down, the president said. Pandemic and race relations, diplomacy with North Korea, that should be interesting. Range of other issues. I'll probably give that a read, or at least download the inevitable audiobook. But the spiciest stuff always gets news articles, and this is pretty spicy. That it's clear that Trump wasn't just who didn't understand the risk, but he was actively lying. Uh, so I recognise that most people watching probably aren't massive fans of Trump. If you are, I, what are you doing? Have you not been paying attention? Um, or maybe you're some kind of accelerationist, who knows, in which case your ideology is very silly. Or accelerationism isn't so much an ideology as an approach, a tactical approach. Oh, network error, is uh, that something I need to check on? No? Okay. Um, just, yeah, I don't know, the stream manager was saying weird things. It doesn't matter. Uh, and here, the other side of the Atlantic, or this side of the Atlantic, uh, Bojo is trying to act to prevent a second lockdown by implementing something like a lockdown light. I personally didn't think that we should be raising the lockdown quite so early, and that we've gone back to normal, or something approaching normal far too fast, which seems to have been borne out in the rise in case numbers. Fortunately, deaths aren't up that much yet, though. Of course, the case numbers are lagging. The reported case numbers are lagging the actual case numbers because obviously it takes a while to do the tests and so forth. Um, and the deaths are lagging the case numbers because it takes a while for them to shuffle off this mortal coil. So hopefully, at least the hospitals are going to be better prepared this time, and a swift intervention is going to improve things. But I don't know if this is going to be particularly effective. Um, the opening hours being restricted uh, seems potentially counterproductive, particularly because restricting opening hours tends to lead to greater crushes, greater concentrations of people towards the end of the night, because there are more people who want to stick around and have one more drink. So, and excuse me, get their reveling into the limited available time. So that doesn't seem like a particularly good approach, though. Who knows? Um, Government is simplifying and strengthening the rules, apparently. I mean, simplifying them seems to make sense because currently lots of people don't seem to have any idea of what the actual rules are. But yeah. Opinion article. So, uh, individual polls are a bit useless, though. Might be the latest one, but let's see what 538 is saying because I prefer their polling aggregate. Biden favoured, that's always good. Open the forecast. Well, little downtick recently after a concerning rise over the last month and a bit. So, well, as I was saying the other day, it concerns me that the probability of Trump winning is still reasonably high. So by this estimate, which you can certainly criticise Nate Silver's model, but it seems to be the best option out there if you're trying to make a prediction. I'd certainly trust it more than the betting markets. Uh, got about a 3 in 4 chance of Biden winning, which better than last time, but in 2016. but still not the kind of thing, if you have a revolver with four chambers and there's a bullet in one of them, I wouldn't particularly like to play Russian roulette with that. Um, so, and, the 538 model, I believe, does put a lot of weight on the uncertainty involved. The fact that, if you look at this trend, this trend line, what are we at? Where 10th of September, so going back to August, we saw about a bit more than 1.5 point change in his approval. If that goes up to, if we get the same kind of increase over the next few weeks, between now and polling day, now in November, that could be a very close race. Now, I suspect we won't get that much movement, but who knows? So I'm still terrified about that, because while it's bad for people in the US, the 330 whatever million people in the US, if Trump gets elected, well, some of them benefit obviously, but most of them won't. It's going to be just as bad, and maybe not just as bad, but it's going to be also quite bad for everyone else in the world, because the US having meaningful leadership in the world has probably been a good thing, at least by my reckoning, and Trump does a very bad job at leading, allowing other dominant powers to have a sway in outcomes of world politics, and those other dominant powers are even less benign than the US, particularly the Chinese Communist Party and the Putin. The Putin. Anyway, the news is depressing. Let's see what's on Ars Technica. That's usually a bit interesting. This Russian vaccine is interesting, or maybe concerning. Yeah, so I haven't read this open letter, but Enrico Bucci published an open letter outlining some concerns with the data in the Lancet paper that describes the vaccine safety tests. Let's see. Okay, so it calls attention to the issue. Looks like more data is needed, or more data are needed, I suppose. Like, I can see an argument for speeding ahead with development, but the problem... Okay, right, so it's getting a larger trial starting. Okay, they basically just skip phases. The previously planned post-registration. Okay. Big multi-center trial, 40,000 people. Pledged to vaccinate millions in coming months. I guess this is in no small part because I don't know how the populace in Russia are taking it, but the Russian infection rates are quite bad, and presumably this is at least part domestic signalling by Putin to try to indicate that something's being done. Announced that one of his daughters had received a dose of the 2-dose vaccine. I mean, exploratory vaccines usually aren't especially dangerous. It's one of these kind of tail risk things where most of them, at worst, you get some flu-like symptoms, and the vaccine doesn't work very well. but there are some that have led to quite unpleasant reactions, which is why we usually go through the gradual phases of clinical trials, gradually exposing more people to the experimental candidate. Um, but in this case, they're speeding ahead, and hopefully it won't have anything dangerous. Hopefully the worst outcome is just that um, it doesn't really do anything, and that still gives potentially a false sense of security to the people of Russia and anyone else who get the vaccine. But uh, that's not the worst outcome ever. So yeah. Anyway, um, let's play a bit of CK3. Uh, the news is terrifying, and uh, I feel like some more incest. So my game's been going well. Uh, I have, I think last we left off, uh, I was on Isaac the Scholar, who was son to a particularly murderous but effective mother, empress, and I've had two people come and go since then, um, which would be Emperor Thomas the Wise, who became a bit of a mystic and ended up founding a new religion, or at least a new branch of Christianity. It's kind of tenuous as to whether like it's really Christian, um, because it is. Why is that not? Sorry, trying to bugger around with the lighting a bit. Because it has some rather divergent beliefs. So we've been. So he ended up fucking around a bit and got quite pox-ridden, but then miraculously got it cured thanks to mystical uh, like medical practices and witchcraft and such. So he did get the pox later because he'd given it to his wife. He got it back, uh, but he got rid of it initially thanks to magic, and then uh, had a vision quest. He got interested in witchcraft, went on a vision quest, and that inspired him to create a new faith that would better suit the realm, because Catholicism was like demanding a lot of wars, and it was restricting the number of like spouses you could have, and it really didn't like incest, like closer than cousins, and that's just too much hassle. So he founded Boinkism, and then his daughter, Pope Empress Aragonte the Blood Mother. Yes, it actually gave me the title The Blood Mother, which is pretty cool. She consolidated power and made all of Hispania like one big empire, and then took advantage of the new religious norms to take a couple of bonus husbands. So she had three husbands, two cousins, and a nephew. Uh, then managed to like purify her bloodline somehow using mystical stuff or something, um, which gave her the title the Blood Mother, and then gave rise to me, current me, Pope Fernando Aragontes of the Bunkian Papacy. So I'm a pope and an emperor, which is like pretty awesome. It's a good combo. And I've got 14 kids so far, to three different four? Yeah, four wives. Um, well, three wives, one betrothed, because she's 12. Um, so we're going to be waiting until 16, because that's fine to have sex with your niece as long as they're over the age of 16. All good. Or is it 19? I think it might be older for incest or something. I don't know. This has some like the game has some weird norms that it draws the line at. So my heir is Infante Salvador Terces, and the inbreeding has been pretty effective. I might not be his father, but that's okay because there's just been a lot of fucking. Doesn't really matter. Um, King Fernando or Pope Fernando isn't a jealous guy. You know, he has lots of wives, but they have their lovers, and it's all one big fuck puddle. So my son has divine blood. He's fecund, so he gives lots of produces lots of babies. He's beautiful. He's only intelligent. He's not a genius, unfortunately, and Herculean. Whereas his betrothed, also my niece, is a giant, which is going to be interesting. I'm going to breed up some giant warrior kings. That's going to be fun. She's beautiful. She's Amazonian. She's genius, and she also has divine blood because nieces, cousins, brothers, is whatever. So that's going pretty well. The whole breeding thing, and got 17 siblings, each of whom is producing quite a lot. So I've changed my grand strategy here. My overall strategy is I'm going to use military force and whatnot to take, down here and basically take all of the Mediterranean. But I'm going to use the force of love to take everything else. By which I mean produce a lot of children and then marry them off so that gradually my lineage just kind of spreads throughout all of Europe and everyone becomes inbred but also like beautiful and super smart and super strong like nobles. So it's going to be a weird few centuries. Say that. I think I'm at the end of the like tech timeline, but I'm enjoying it, so I'm going to keep playing. I next time I'll probably going to start from 860 whatever, whenever the 800 start is, because I started in 1066 for this one, and I would like a bit more time, though. It's kind of there is a bit of frustration before you get to primogeniture, because every time your character dies, there's a big war about splitting up all of the kingdom, whereas primogeniture means that all of your titles go to one, the firstborn, usually male offspring, whereas with whatever the previous one is, they just kind of get distributed equally, or approximately equally, depending on which version of you have, which is just annoying. So, which is how it was, and of course is the reason why we got. Though I'm certainly no expert on it, with the reason why we got a lot of like fractured counties and duchies and whatnot in the medieval era, and lots of like wars. Probably the Hundred Years' War, one of them. I don't know. As I've said before, my knowledge of like history, I know a bit of ancient history. I was quite interested in like the Romans and Greeks and so forth when I was a kid. And I'm not bad, sort of in peaking like in the Cold War. I'm not bad at history post like 18th century maybe. Um, but before that, I don't know. It's all like knights and castles and stuff. Um, but this game should hopefully teach me a little bit. I have been learning a fair bit from playing like Hearts of Iron and whatnot, which obviously, isn't a faithful recreation of what happened in the Second World War. but it does inspire me to listen to some audiobooks or read something and learn a little bit more about the actual period. Plus, it gives you playing these kind of grand strategy games has vastly improved my knowledge of geography. I have a much better idea of where everything actually is. So yes, my faith. I am playing as a Boinkian now. You get to name your faith, and the first thing that came to mind was Boink. So, and they do a lot of boinking in my faith. So I figured Boinkism. Boinkism. I can't even say my own bloody name. So we are big into fucking. We're big into magic. So we have wise men, mystic people, and we try to uh, practice magic. Lots of witchcraft. Big in favor of witchcraft. We like polyamory, so you know, lots of wives, lots of husbands. It's fine. We don't get jealous. Though weirdly, the game recognizes for some of the pop-ups, like saying, so and so has Count blah blah has slept with Duchess so and so, and normally there's like opinion penalties from people uh, who are monogamous, and it alters some of them, but also keeps on popping up with some of them, even though like my character just doesn't give a shit. I don't know. It's something they should maybe fix. Um, so our clergy are like all elected. We're fine with deviants, gay, all good. Adultery. It's not even adultery. It's just polyamory. Ethical, fine. Um, Big on witchcraft, but we're not very in favour of kinslaying. There was a lot of kinslaying earlier in the game, in previous generations. Particularly the the great great grandmother. Um, but lots of murder. So when the I need to remember these people's names. So when Emperor Thomas the Wise came along, his grandmother, Empress Joanna the Flayer, uh, she was super murdery. So he was like, hey guys, I'm going to found a new religion. Let's maybe ease off on the murder, at least of family. And so he implemented that, and ever since there's been less familial murder. So, good policy. Well done. And then we can have clerics from either gender, and they can get married. So we're not very much like Christianity, but we are still technically Christianity. Um, we still have Jesus. He's cool. We just also like spells and witchcraft and shit. And currently, so Pope Emperor Fernando, he's having quite a good time with it. So first of all, he's liking the fucking. Second of all, he did get smallpox and gout earlier, but his local witch, combined with his own healing skills, managed to save him. So he's no longer got either smallpox or gout, which is nice for him. Um, Catholic Pope didn't take too kindly to the whole, we're going to split off from you thing. So seethed for a couple of generations, but pretty soon after Pope Fernando came to power, the Pope did a crusade against me, and that's just not cool. Especially as I'd just gotten out of a whole war with my vassals. They wanted freedom, and I was like, no, I get that you want freedom, but nah. So I beat them, but then Pope comes along and is like, hey, become Catholic again. We're going to install a new leader in your empire. So I didn't respond well to that. We had a bit of an argy-bargy, and ended up with me taking Rome, or at least taking control of Rome. And then that was this whole thing. So this time, sorry, there was a treaty. We agreed to stop with the fighting, and that's all good. 7 years of war, which you know It's not ideal, but we live and learn. Um, so now I've got a peace treaty with the papacy, but not with Italy. And Italy has been causing some problems. Obviously, I've gobbled up a bit of them, but there's still more to go. So I think what I'm going to do is take Italy. I reckon I can take them in a fight. And then the papacy is basically surrounded, or at least has got a big land border with me. And when the treaty comes up, when the treaty's ended, does it say, "Oh wait, we don't. Oh, we didn't form a treaty. He just like gave up on the crusade." Okay, so whenever I feel like it, I can just go in and take Rome. And they do have a lot of soldiers. They are pretty beefy. Oh no no. Okay, I do have a truce. Right. So that's until 1395. It's 1390 now. 5 years is plenty to take Italy and maybe take Urbino too. They're not allied with anyone, which seems unwise. And then we'll just, gobble up most of the Italian peninsula. Um, the okay, so the Empress of Francia, whatever, is getting on a bit. Her primary heir, Princess Alice, whatever, of Francia, is my lover. You know, sleeping with princesses might be unwise, but uh, hey, I'm a pope, pope of a religion of love. It's fine. And yeah. So right, I'm going to start with a declaration of war because that's how these things are done. So, oh, you're in prison. Are you in my prison? Imprisoned by no, you're imprisoned by Duke Federico. Okay. Well, unfortunate for you, you're not going to be able to lead your armies. So, all de jure lands, no, I don't want that. Your claims, that's what I want. I claim everything. Cool, they are vastly inferior to me. They have a... Oh, that ally is my vassal, so he's not going to attack me unless he feels like rising up, which he's probably not going to do, given that he loves me. Cool. Let's declare a little war. Unfortunate King Bertok. Okay, so I'm going to raise everything here, raise all my armies here, because you can like put down a bunch of rally points and then raise all of your armies like across the different rally points, but it doesn't work very well to distribute them. So I'm just going to raise everything there. It's going to take a few months, but I'm going to switch out. I don't want to be commanding this because if you're commanding it, you might just die, and I don't want that. Right, let's give overall command to Zeridu Aragontes. He's got... Oh, look at that chin. He's a beefy boy. He is a beefy boy. 27 prowess. Nice. He's a famous champion. Champion, that is. A skilled tactician, not the best, but still. Sweet. He's gluttonous, although for someone of that size, he's going to need to eat. He's paranoid, and he is sadistic. Sadistic is kind of what we want here, so that's nice. He's a nasty boy. Right, so those levies are still being raised, but I'm going to split off. I'll just split into two, and then reorganize. Right, so that one is... No, stop making me the bloody commander. There's probably some way of turning that off, but yeah. Have we got hilly terrain around here? So these give bonuses, these special abilities of different commanders. So these give some nice bonuses, and I will... So I'll put him in charge. Can reorganize them, and because the Right, okay. So the reserves are going into the, sorry, the levies are going into the first army, where we have a commander who's good with logistics. So I'm going to put all my like elite troops into the second army, along with that is a lot of knights, along with most of the knights. Uh, I've got lots of like kings and stuff in my army. This is probably unwise. Uh, let's take some of my like top advisors out of these armies. Um, oh hey, definitely not Devros. Thank you for following. Good to see you. Um, oh, sorry, I didn't see chat. Is there multiplayer in this? Apologies, I got my attention with the ping. Yes, I believe there is. I haven't actually played it yet, but I'm pretty sure it does have a multiplayer option. In fact, I've seen. Let's see. Yeah, so you can. I don't have a Paradox account yet, but you can apparently open for multiplayer. So you can just like start a game and let people hop in, I guess. Um, I've I tend to get a bit stressed out with like time-sensitive games in multiplayer personally. Like I find it if I'm playing, I've done some Civ multiplayer, and I only really like it with friends who are willing to tolerate my like taking a while. Because sometimes I like to sit back and ponder, and I get really on edge when I know that it's like an actual human player on the other end of the line waiting for me to deal with whatever bullshit I'm doing. But yeah, you know, if you like multiplayer and you like this, then you'll probably like multiplayer on this, I'd guess. Right, let's reorganize. So I'm going to reorganize my knights a bit because I just noticed that a bunch of them are like, okay, let's forbid my cousin wife. She is pretty good though. For some reason, sometimes people are naked. I don't know, they're barbarians or something. She is pretty skilled for a one-legged person. She is impressive. Okay. Mm, she's reclusive. Uh, she has already. Oh, she's 47. Okay, she's probably not putting. This is. This game makes you make some very ethically dubious choices because she's probably not putting out many babies still. So let's let her fight. Um, I mean, if she dies, she would actually fill up a slot for another wife. So, you know, might not be the worst thing. Okay, so forbid my both brother-in-law and chancellor. I don't want people who are like on my council or super senior vassals unless they are either incredible at fighting or I hate them. And if I hate them, then I can force them to fight, which is quite fun. Whoa, she is expensive. So I've just realised I haven't got the sound set up properly, so it's not coming through uh, on here. I can just hear it from my TV. Anyway, right. King, who loves me, probably don't want him fighting. Uh, Duke, he doesn't like me very much. He can fight if he dies. Oh well. Aragonte, you are. You're pretty. You've got a lot of useful traits for breeding, so let's stop you. And you're not particularly skilled. Let's definitely stop you from fighting because that's just going to cause trouble. Um, and that's probably fine unless we've got any more. Oh, you don't like me very much. Go on, take the battlefield. Do do do. Okay, that's fine. Right. So we've got our chunky army on the move, and let's just move into Italy. Um, maybe speed things up slightly. Ah, My son is coming of age. Do we want to teach him witchcraft? Obviously. Obviously, Fernando wants to be a witch or a warlock or whatever. He can be whatever he wants to be. He's my son. Do you have to take the UCAT for neuroscience? No, uh, oh wait, I, I did have to. I can't remember what it was. I had to take some kind of university entrance exam. Uh, I think it might have been the. Honestly, can't remember. Um, I mainly remember my interviews because I my undergraduate degree was in physiology, like biomedical sciences, at Balliol College, Oxford, and um, my uh, yeah, did we? Uh, no, there wasn't a Oxford specific entrance exam. The interviews are like the main thing. So I, yeah, like I say, did some kind of entrance exam that I think was valid for. I applied to Oxford, Cardiff, Bristol, and Newcastle. Not Newcastle, Nottingham. Nottingham, and I did one entrance exam for all of them. But then uh, Oxford does at interview you have it's kind of treated like a tutorial, which is the main form of teaching here. Oh, I'm hemorrhaging money. Let's just split in half and stop you. Just disband you. I have to be in friendly territory. Are they not? Okay, they need to be away from hostile armies. Um, yeah, so I did interviews at Keble and Balliol colleges that are, like I say, treated kind of like a tutorial where you've got like one professor and like 1 to 4 students, and although the interviews were 1-on-1, um, or sometimes 2-on-1, like multiple tutors and 1 student, but for tutorials it's one professor and potentially multiple students having a kind of discussion about whatever topic is relevant to their studies today. And yeah, my interviews were quite interesting. Um, at Keble, the main question I remember is kind of a fairly relaxed discussion. Lots of people get very on edge about it, but that kind of sort of scholarly engagement is something I deal quite well with. So at Keble, they asked me, one of the main questions was, if you are um, if you find yourself in a like forested area, you have no idea where you are, you've just been kidnapped, and uh, how do you work out where you are? And there are obviously very many ways that you can answer that. I think I started by saying that the thing about moss growing predominantly on one side of a tree is not accurate, so you wouldn't be able to use that. I also wouldn't be able to use my usual favoured method of determining um, what direction I'm going in cities, which is the direction of satellite dishes, because they almost always point towards the equator. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, you can see that they're all pointing south and vice versa. And then I talked a bit about like different types of vegetation and breaking down different like clades of animals. If you see a marsupial, it's a pretty good bet that you're in the southern hemisphere. If you see a bear, it's likely that you're in either like close to the equator or more likely northern hemisphere, etc., etc. Um, and then at Balliol, I actually had 2 interviews at Balliol. Uh, one with one that focused on, among other things, how to work out how long a snorkel you could use when underwater. So thinking about like pressure on your body and dead space in the airway and how that works. and also looking at the tutor like brought out a skull that was some kind of canine skull. I think it was just a domestic dog, but brought out a skull and said, "What can you infer about this animal based on the skull?" Based on observing the skull. So you pick it up and have a look and say, okay, there's lots of invaginations in the nasal cavity, suggesting it has a strong sense of smell. But the nasal passages aren't very large, suggesting it's probably not from the near the equator or hot territory, and just kind of deducing things in an interesting fashion, I guess. Um, yeah, those were quite fun. Um, but to answer your question, Oxford definitely has its own weird, like, I'll ask your statement, definitely has its own weird, like, exam systems and so forth. And I think some courses uh, do have, like, an Oxford specific exam. And if you're considering this in terms of, like, career planning, this was all, a decade ago now. Fuck. So and the name of the course I went on has changed. So now it's the biomedical sciences course. It was at the time physiological sciences, which sounds so much better. Although I do have people sometimes ask, oh, physiology, is that like massaging backs and stuff? No, that's a different thing. Um, anyway, so let's press our attack into Italy. Um, cause them all kinds of grief. Ooh, they're amassing some forces. Um, let's turn around actually and go defend this mountain pass with Chonky Lad. Um, potentially apply to study medicine next year. Oh, good job. Well, I'm admittedly biased, but a lot of university rankings give Oxford, put Oxford at the number one for medical sciences in the world. So, I would definitely recommend if you're making an Oxford application, if you're thinking about making an Oxford application, do go ahead with it. Uh, it's at least if it's the kind of environment like that fits with you. It's the tutorial system is a bit uh, a bit Marmite, a little bit um, level hate. I personally really loved it. Some people I know don't get on with it super well. And if you don't, if you're really confident that it's not going to be the kind of system for you, it is like the bulk of teaching at Oxford. So, or at least the bulk of like important teaching at Oxford. So, you know, if you're just like terrified at the idea of chatting with a professor directly, like it might not be for you. But if that kind of thing sounds good, and if you like a pretty like neuro heavy well, I'm not sure about the course, but department certainly. Oxford has a lot of neuroscience. Um, if you're interested in potentially doing, rotations at the John Radcliffe, it's a very good hospital. I have worked there and had a few operations there myself. Um, yeah, I would strongly recommend it. And obviously, the best college is Balliol. Um, can't apply for Oxford, unfortunately, as they different medicine entry test. Unfortunately. Um, oh, King's College, very solid. My fiance did her masters and doctorate at King's, and yeah, it's also I think consistently ranks in the top like 10 or so worldwide for several like medical related subjects, certainly for psychology. And yeah, so KCL, very very good. Um, Yeah, Oxford is a bit funny with some of its application stuff. I also couldn't you can't apply for Oxford and Cambridge in the same year, I think, which I suppose makes sense because most of the people applying for one are probably going to apply for the other, but still. Um, yeah. Well, best of luck. Um, like I did consider I really wanted to be a physician when I was a kid. Um, I uh, wanted to be a neurosurgeon. I've ended up studying neurosurgery as an academic rather than as a clinician. Um, but I just medicine seems like a lot of pressure, and it's very much like a vocation. You know, you've got to want to like live medicine, and it was a lot of time demand. Um, Plus, like I ended up taking more interest in the kind of like ethics and like cybersecurity side of um, like neurosurgery, which I find fascinating. And obviously, you could still do as a clinician, but um, yeah, just not really for me. Um, the utmost respect for for people who do go through medical school, though. Um, it's not easy. Like intellectually, it's I think not necessarily any more challenging uh, than like biomedical sciences or neuroscience or whatever. Um, but it's very can be very demanding. Um, though, you know, the I have several friends who are doctors and who wouldn't want to do anything else. Uh, let's see. The White Hart, right? So this is uh, this is an interesting weird thing that's been going on. My character Pope Fernando, or Pope Emperor Fernando, it keeps on calling him Pope Fernando, but I want to recognise he's also an emperor. You know, he does a lot of things. Um, so he is currently hunting. He went hunting, saw a white hart, a big like white deer, and was like, "I must have it." But it got startled away by one of his stupid followers. So now he's been sort of it's his white whale. You know, he's been hunting it down, getting quite obsessive over it. Um, so, since I have started my search, reports coming in from all over the realm of people spotting the flighty white hart. To sift through the accounts and sort fact from fiction is a huge task, if only the reports were more reliable. So I could give up. No. I could do it myself. I do have quite a bit of stress already, and more stress means less fertility, and we couldn't be doing with that. Or I could have my steward do it, which will reduce her opinion of me, but she already loves me, so I'll just be like, come on, Mariam, just sort the papers. Um, so that's fine. I'm a little bit in debt, but not really seriously. And I'm just gonna smash this army. I'll probably take a fair few losses because we're fighting in like mountains, unless they like run away half of their army. That seems like a poor idea. I don't know. Okay, let's. That is. Oh, is that not going in my favour? That might not be going in my favour. That's not ideal. Okay, let's send big chunky army to. In fairness, this is just like purely peasants while they've got all these good things. Okay, so that should at least take a little while, hopefully, so I can send in send in my good army to rescue them. Um, though, no, no, it's pushing back in my favour. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, let's not send in my good army then. Yeah, we're all good there. Uh, and instead, I'll just continue rampaging across Italy. Although I might have won the war with this. Let's see how much war score this gives me once I'm done with the fight. Um, these sieges have gone very fast thanks to my new bombards. Got like actual cannon. Uh, okay, so the war is won. I think. I mean, looks like it. What are you doing? You just raiding the city? Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Right. that was a quick war. Um, you suck, dude. So I get the lots of duchies, counties, bishopric, and I get some prestige. Nice. Okay, well that was a rather successful little war. I was expecting to have a bit more of a fight, to be honest. Um, we're in a war for the county of Furstenberg, apparently. Okay. Oh, right. Well, this is going rather well, isn't it, I say? Okay. Oh. Oh. Hey, Keep with the Glasses, how's it going? Good to see you. Oh. How's your afternoon going? Yeah, the afternoon where you all are. Oh, I might just be on the way out. Sorry to do a bit of a uh, short stream. Yeah, I've been doing so. You know, had a bit of a rough time with some personal stuff recently. You know, various medical things and family stuff. But um, you know, I've been trying my best to keep up with the streaming because it is still giving me a lot of satisfaction, and it's nice just having a space to, you know, chat to the world and engage with fun people in chat and whatnot. Um, thanks, Geek. Yeah, yeah. You know, hopefully I'll gradually improve and things will get a bit better. I should have turned up my lights because I'm getting lots of green behind me, but oh. Um, yeah. So I think I will leave it there uh, for this session. But I will be back on Friday. Um, and what should I do on Friday? So if new follower, thank you for following. Definitely not Devros. If you are interested in um, like following my social media things, I have a Discord and Twitter, and yeah. Right, so I think I'm going to bugger off. Apologies for a bit of a short stream. I normally go a little bit longer, but yeah, I'm just a bit under the weather. Anyway, oh hey J-Tips, I'm sorry to be buggering off just as you arrive. Good to see you. Uh, I have just won a war. Oh shit! Thanks, J-Tips. Thanks, man. I very much appreciate your ongoing subscription, and yeah, I'm going to be back on Friday. If you do want to go back and watch the VOD, I just won a war with Spain and had some uh, not especially insightful things to say about Trump and coronavirus and whatnot. But yeah, anyway, have a good night, everyone. Ta ta, and big thank you to new follower and old subscriber. Yeah.